go. Finally, this dude is like, he's not, oh man, like if you just stop being such a little whiny baby. Okay, so this is chapter 5 of the Brothers Umbra. This is Dnaught's story that's currently on Royal Road. Let me fix the text in OBS quickly. Okay, so chapter 5, essentially for those of you who don't know, in the Brothers Umbra there are two brothers. They are basically like the reincarnated version of the hero and the demon king. The story takes place from their perspective, and so far we've been in the quote-unquote evil twin's brain. He's not evil, he's just struggling with that. And he's on the run, he's hiding. And that's essentially where we're at in a very brief nutshell. The days passed quietly, a stark contrast to the chaos that had marked my life just 2 weeks ago. The village, nestled between the forest and the hills, felt like a world apart from the burdens I carried. I threw myself into the rhythm of daily life, avoiding questions and deflecting curiosity with a simple, "I'm just passing through." Mare, and as observant and sharp as she was, didn't pry, but I could see the questions in her eyes, questions I wasn't ready to answer. The villagers accepted me cautiously at first. My hood stayed low, my words brief, but slowly the quiet acts of help I offered seemed to soften their suspicions. I fixed broken fences, helped patch roofs, and carried heavy loads for those who couldn't. Mare insisted I was overdoing it, but the truth was, I needed to keep busy. When my hands were still, my mind wandered, and Damon's voice was quick to fill the silence. "You're wasting your time here," he would whisper, his tone a mixture of amusement and derision. "Helping these people won't change what you are." I ignored him. Most days I was good at it, some days not so much. One particular morning, Mare and I found ourselves at the village's small river bank, hauling stones to reinforce the bridge after a recent flood. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine, and the sunlight dappled through the leaves above us. Mare worked with an efficiency that put me to shame, her gaze flicking toward me every so often. "You know," she said after a while, straightening up and wiping her forehead with the back of her hand, "you're pretty good at this whole manual labor thing. Ever think about sticking around?" I paused, a large stone balanced precariously in my hands. "Sticking around?" She shrugged, leaning against a nearby tree. "Yeah, the village could use someone like you. You're handy, quiet, and you don't ask for much. Plus," she added with a smirk, "you don't seem like the type to complain." I set the stone down carefully, brushing dirt from my hands. "I don't think it's that simple." "Why not?" Mare asked, crossing her arms. "What's so complicated about finding a place to call home?" Her words caught me off guard, striking a chord I hadn't realized was still raw. I looked away, focusing on the steady flow of the river. "I just don't think it's something I can have anymore." Mare didn't push, she rarely did, but her silence was always deliberate, as if she were giving me space to fill it. When I didn't, she sighed and went back to her work, her movements purposeful and unbothered. By the time we returned to the village, the sky had turned a soft orange and the scent of cooking fires filled the air. The evening bustle was a comfort, and I hadn't expected to feel. Villagers chatted over shared meals, children played games near the well, and the air hummed with the kind of life I'd always felt separate from. "Luca!" a young boy, Mark, called out as Mara and I passed. I turned to see him waving, his grin wide and infectious. "Did you fix the cart?" I nodded. "Good as new, just try not to overload it this time." He gave a mock salute before darting back to his friends as Mare gave me a sidelong glance. "You're good with kids, too. What's next? Baking pies?" "Don't push your luck," I muttered, though I couldn't help a small smile tugging at my lips. We reached the cat tavern shortly after, the familiar warmth of its interior a welcome reprieve from the cooling evening air. Mare motioned for me to sit as she fetched 2 bowls of stew from Roderick, the tavern keeper. When she returned, she set one in front of me and sat down across the table, her expression unusually serious. "You've been here a week now," she said, stirring her stew idly, "and I'm starting to think you're either the world's most boring traveler or you're hiding something big." I froze, the spoon halfway to my mouth. Mare's sharp gaze pinned me in place, and for a moment I considered telling her. Not everything, but enough. Enough to explain why I couldn't stay, why I couldn't let myself get comfortable here. Instead, I set the spoon down and met her gaze. Maybe I just don't like talking about myself. Her lips twitched into a faint smile. Fair enough, but for what it's worth, you don't have to keep everything to yourself. We're family here. Family. The word hit harder than it should have. I forced a nod, hoping she wouldn't press further. Thankfully, she didn't. The days in Dnaught began to blur together, each one marked by the same quiet routines, yet beneath the surface of that calm I felt the growing weight of my own presence here. It was only a matter of time before the past I had buried would claw its way back into the light. For now, though, I focused on the tasks at hand. Morning came with a crisp chill in the air, the kind that made your breath visible and the fields glisten with dew. I had agreed to help Johann repair his barn today. The structure had seen better days, its roof sagging under years of weather and neglect. By the time I arrived, Mary was already there, sleeves rolled up and her hair tied back in a messy braid. "You're late," she teased as I approached, hands on her hips. "Starting to lose your touch, farmhand." I rolled my eyes, brushing past her to inspect the tools laid out. "You've been here long enough to get started without me?" You've been here long enough to get started without me. What's your excuse?" Maverick's grin widened. "Thought I'd wait and see if you'd actually show up. Johann bet you'd skip out." "Glad to know I'm inspiring so much faith," I muttered, grabbing a hammer. Maverick's laugh followed me as we got to work. The barn's repairs were straightforward, though tedious. As we worked, Maverick filled the silence with stories of her childhood, the kind of light-hearted memories I had long since forgotten how to share. Her laughter was infectious, and I found myself smiling more often than I expected. "You ever think about what you'd do if you weren't traveling?" Maverick asked suddenly, breaking the rhythm of our hammering. She was perched on a ladder, holding a plank in place while I secured it. I paused, considering her question. "Not really. I've only been moving for a few weeks, so it's all new to me." Maverick's gaze lingered on me, sharp and curious. "That's not an answer." "It's the best I got," I said, avoiding her eyes. The truth was, I didn't let myself think about the future. The weight of everything I carried left little room for dreams or plans. Maverick didn't press, though her silence spoke volumes. She climbed down the ladder, dusting her hands off and giving me a look I couldn't quite decipher. By midday, the barn's roof was patched, and the sunlight streamed through the gaps we hadn't gotten to yet. Johann brought out a pitcher of water and some bread, his gruff demeanor softening as he muttered a gruff, "Thanks for the help." Maverick grinned, leaning against a beam. "You're welcome. Don't forget to mention who did most of the work." Johann huffed, though there was a hint of a smile beneath his grumbling. I finished the last of the water, straightened, stretching my arms. "Anything else you need while we're here?" "Not today," Johann said, shaking his head. "You two have done more than enough." Maverick gave him a mock salute, and we made our way back to the village square. As we reached the edge of the square, Maverick stopped abruptly, turning to face me. "You know," she began, her tone serious for once. "People here really do trust you, even Johann, and he's about as friendly as a bear in winter." "Not sure why," I said, my voice low. "I'm just a stranger." Maverick's eyes narrowed slightly as if she were trying to read something written on my face. "You're more than that, Luca. Maybe you don't see it, but they do. I do." Her words caught me off guard, and I didn't know how to respond. Before I could say anything, she waved me off, her grin returning. "Anyway, don't let it go to your head. Come on, let's grab something to eat." I followed her to the tavern, her words lingering in my mind. The sun hung low in the sky as Dnaught settled into its usual evening rhythm. Villagers packed away their tools and gathered near the square, chatting over the day's work. Mare and I had spent most of our day helping Johann haul grain sacks up from the mill. My arms ached from the effort, and I longed for the quiet of my room. But Mare had other plans. "Come on," she said, nudging my shoulder as we walked back toward the tavern. "We've earned a little time to relax. Let's sit by the river for a bit." "I'm fine," I muttered, pulling my hood tighter. The fabric felt like a second layer of skin by this point. The only time I ever removed it was in the comfort of my room at the tavern. "Luca," Mare said, exasperation lacing her voice. "You've been hiding in the shadows since you got here. A little fresh air won't kill you. Come on." Before I could argue, she grabbed my hand and steered me toward the edge of the village. The path to the river was quiet, lined with tall grass that swayed in the evening breeze. The sound of running water grew louder as we walked, mingling with the faint chirping of crickets. By the time we reached the bank, the sun had dipped low below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Mary plopped down on a smooth rock near the water's edge, motioning for me to sit beside her. Reluctantly I did, keeping my hood firmly in place. She leaned back on her hands, her gaze fixed on the rippling water. "You know," she began, her tone softer now, "I don't get you. You're helpful, hardworking, and the kids in the village practically idolize you. But it's like you're carrying this invisible weight, and you won't let anyone help you with it. I didn't respond, my eyes focused on the river. The current reminded me of the flames that had erupted from my body in Valterra, relentless, consuming, unstoppable. Luca, Mare said after a moment, her voice gentle but insistent. Why do you hide your face? The question hung in the air, heavy and unavoidable. I felt her eyes on me, searching for an answer I wasn't ready to give. It's better this way, I said, finally, my voice low. Better for who? She pressed. The villagers already trust you. You've done nothing but help since you got here. What are you so afraid of? The words caught in my throat. If she knew, if any of them knew what I really was or what I carried inside me, that trust would vanish in an instant. They'd look at me the way the masses in Valterra had, with fear and hatred. It doesn't matter, I said, rising to my feet. I should go. Mare stood quickly, grabbing my arm before I could turn away. Wait, I didn't mean to. Her voice faltered, and she let out a frustrated sigh. I just want to understand you, Luca. The earnestness in her voice stopped me. I looked down at her, her dark eyes pleading with me, and then, before I could stop her, she reached for my hood. Don't, I began, but it was too late. The fabric slipped back, and the cool evening air brushed against my face. Mare froze, her gaze locking onto mine. Her eyes widened as they took in the bright red irises that marked me as something demonic. I expected her to flinch, to recoil in fear or disgust, but she didn't. Your eyes, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. They're beautiful. The word startled me. Of all the things I'd expected, that wasn't one of them. You're not afraid? I asked, my voice trembling. Mare's expression softened, and she shook her head. Why would I be? They're just eyes, Luca. They don't change who you are. You don't understand, I said, taking a step back. If people knew what these eyes meant, what I am, then you'll tell me when you're ready, she said firmly, cutting me off. But whatever it is, it doesn't change the fact that you've been kind and selfless since the moment you came here. That's who you are, Luca, not whatever you think these eyes mean. Her words hit me like a wave, breaking through the walls I'd worked so hard to put up. Tears began to well up in my eyes. Thank you, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. It wasn't enough to express the gratitude that had built up in my chest, but it was all I could manage. Mare smiled, a warm, genuine smile that made my tears begin to fall. Any time, farmhand. We stood there for a moment longer, the river's gentle song filling the silence between us. Let's go! Mare might be my new favorite character. Mare is the goat, I'm afraid. Let's go, dude. That was so good, man. I love it. I love the budding relationship between Mare and Luca. Finally, this dude is like, he's not, oh man, like if you just stop being such a little whiny baby, you know, like, jeez, it's not all about you, Luca. No, the date split seemed fine. It flowed really well. I didn't have any issue with that. I thought that was good. I think next chapter we see Caesar's perspective, right? I'm excited for that. Yeah, no, I very much enjoyed that. I enjoyed this chapter more than I enjoyed the fourth chapter because I think he was still like being like real whiny. And I like this chapter. I like this slice of life style. As like, cause like clearly something's coming, and we know Caesar's coming to get him. But it was very cozy. This chapter was very cozy. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed him helping out. You know, him being selfless and wanting to help is really kind of making me like him more and more. I didn't want to, but okay. You know what I would actually recommend? Not that I just realized I don't really know what he looks like. Like, is he a big guy? Is he skinny? Is he muscular? Is he short? Like, I don't actually know that. Is that something that I missed that you described? Yeah, I was like, because for whatever reason, in my head, I pictured him as kind of like kind of skinny and like kind of wimpy, like frail, you know? But then when he's like helping carrying stones, I'm like, okay, maybe he's like a bigger guy. Or maybe he's like just I just couldn't picture it. Guys, if you like this story, go check it out on Royal Road, by the way. The Brothers Umbra.